Gosh, I had that bug when I was probably 3.
Wow.
I always wanted to sing. I was one of those kids, I sang all my life, and when I was 3 and 4 years old, 5, like that, somebody come to my house, asked me to sing, I would always sing. I wasn't one of those kids, oh no,
So you're never shy?
No, I just belted out. So I always wanted to sing. I just didn't think it would be possible to be my life because of where I grew up, so turns out that God said, okay, I'll let you have this, and so I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did you, did you always sing like you do? Because obviously you've got such a unique voice, and it's a high voice, and
Gosh, I always sang high.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you go along, and as you're, when you start to sing professionally, especially when you're as young as I was, I hadn't even gone through my first voice change yet,
Yeah.
So it was a rough time in the beginning, out with the Miracles. I used to talk to Michael Jackson about that, because when his voice started changing, he would come to me and talk to me about it and say, I told him you just have to wait because it'll catch again. But when you're a guy and you start so young, your voice doesn't start to change till you're about 18 or 19 years old, So I'm when I first started going on the road, I was 16, and get to the point where you're looking like this, every voice, everything,
Wow.
So it was a rough time for 2-3 years, until my voice just settled
So yeah.
and got to where it was going.
And were you having to perform? When
Oh,
when
yeah.
your voice was breaking?
Oh yeah, after it was a long time after we had started singing. The very first really professional date that the Miracles and I ever played was at the Apollo Theater on the Ray Charles show, and
Wow.
so after years and years of going back to the Apollo, the Miracles finally told me one day. They said, when we first started coming here, the kids used to call and say, "Is Smokey hoarse yet?" Because after 2 or 3 days, it would be over. You're just struggling then,
Yeah.
But when your voice finally settles, then you get
It's
it.
all good.
Yeah.
But when when that was happening, did you worry I'm not going to be able to?
Oh, absolutely. I went to the doctors. I did everything. I wasn't thinking about, hey, this is just a normal occurrence. This happens to all guys, whether you sing or not.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking like that, because I was singing professionally, and I had to go out and sing in front of people, and it's embarrassing when you can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you started singing from the age of 3. So you were
roundhouse.
always music was obviously always a big thing for you. But when did it turn from being a passion into something that you were doing professionally? When did you first realise that could be possible? Because you mentioned that you were on the road from the age of 16.
I didn't realize that could be possible until our first record came out. I graduated from high school in June, and rather than me going to college in September, I was raised by my oldest sister. When I was born, my oldest sister was 17 and my youngest sister was 14. So, I had two siblings, just my sisters. And so my mom passed when I was 10. And then my oldest sister, who had 6 kids at that time, came back to live in the house and raised me as my mom. So,
Wow.
So I was raised by her, and she had 6 kids. She ended up having 10 kids, so there were 11 of us. So I always had a job, man. I always had a job. From the time I was 10 or 11 years old, I always had a job doing something.
What
Delivering
were the
groceries,
jobs?
paperboy, shiny shoes, that kind of stuff. So when I graduated from high school, I was actually working for Western Union. I was delivering telegrams on a bicycle. And so I wanted to wait and save my money up so that I could buy me some clothes to go to college and my books and stuff like that. So I wasn't going to go until January. Just so happens that the Miracles and I got a chance to go audition for Jackie Wilson's managers in August. And that was big to me because Jackie Wilson was my #1 singing idol at that time, and he was from Detroit. And so we went there, and rather than singing songs that were currently popular by other artists to audition with, we decided we were going to sing these 5 songs that I had written, thinking that if we do this, they're going to say, hey, these kids got their own material. It's a wrap. That we love them,
Yeah, great idea.
They didn't like us at all. We were 4 guys with a girl in the group. I sang high, and at the time, the Platters were the #1 group in the world. and they had Zola Taylor singing with them, who was a girl, and Tony, who was the lead singer, had a high voice, you know. So they told us, they said, you guys will never make it because, you know, we already got the Platters. So we don't need another group like that, so you will never make it. They told me and Claudette, who is was my first wife, we weren't married at the time, we were teenagers, you know,
Yeah.
told her and me that we should go and just sing with each other like Mickey and Sylvia, because they had a Love is Strange, a big, huge record, and they said, if you want to be different, you know, you guys should just, so we were rejected. And Berry Gordy was writing all of the hit songs for Jackie Wilson at that time. He just happened to be at that audition. I always tell people it was a God day, because he didn't have to be there that day.
Fate.
And we didn't have to go on the day when he was going to be there. You know what I mean? I always tell people that was a God day, because Berry Gordy did not have to be there that day. We didn't have to go on the day when he was going to be. He was there just to turn in some new songs to Jackie Wilson. That's why he was there. You know, and so, like I said, Jackie Wilson's managers didn't like us because they thought we were like the Platters. And so we were going out of there and we were rejected, and Berry came out behind us. And he wanted to know where we got those songs from that we sang, because he was a songwriter, and that's what he did. So he liked a couple of my songs. And he told me that, and he asked me if I had any more, which he shouldn't have done, because I had a loose leaf notebook with about 100 songs in it. I've been writing since elementary school, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
But he liked a couple of my songs, and then he took me in a little room. He said he liked the sound of my voice. He took me in a little room, and I probably sang 20 songs for Berry that day. And he never said, okay, I'm tired, or, you know, that's enough, man, I gotta go, any of that. He just listened and critiqued them. Because at that time, all my life, since I was a little boy, I could always rhyme stuff. I've always made up poems, and I could always rhyme. My songs were all rhymed up really good.
Yeah.
But only 2 of them made sense. You know what I mean? Only 2 of them made sense, because because my songs were all rhymed up. But at that time, my second verse had absolutely nothing to do with my first verse. You know what I'm saying? And the first verse had nothing to do with the second verse, or the bridge had nothing to do with either one of those verses.
But they were just rhymed.
All rhymed up good, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it was like 4 or 5 songs in one song, you know. So he pointed that out to me, and he said that, you know, a song has to be a short book, or a short story, or a short movie. It has to have a beginning and a middle and an ending that tie in together, and you give people ammunition, and you give people, even if you don't tell them how it ends, you give them enough so they can make up their own ending. But, you know, I want you to listen to the radio and see what guys are writing in it. So he started to mentor me to write songs at that time, and that's when I met him. And, you know, about a year and a half after that, he started Motown.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you said you've been writing since elementary school.
Oh yeah.
And what gave you the urge to do that? You know, did you hear stuff like on the radio, and that made you want to write?
No.
Because it would have been, you know, this is like the birth of.
Well, you see, I grew up in a home where there was always music, man. Every day, all day long, any kind of music you can think of was being played at our house. I had 2 older sisters, and between them and my mom, we just had music, all kinds of music. You know, gospel, blues, classical, jazz, you know, whatever, you know, we had a lot of music. So I grew up hearing that from the time I could hear. So I guess that was influential on me. And then I think that God gives everybody gifts. Everybody gets a gift. Some people never find their gift. Some people never even search for their gift. Some people never even know they have it, but they do. Everybody gets something that they can do that they're really good at. You know what I mean? So I just think it was a gift. I think it was what I was meant to do, and it's a gift, and I thank God for it, and I don't
question it, or
yeah, you know.
But you definitely, you know, because if you were writing since elementary school, you know, you developed that and what, you know, and worked.
Well,
on it
yeah,
yourself.
I didn't really develop it professionally though until I met Berry.
Until you met Berry.
Yeah.
And how did you know meet the guys from the Miracles? How did that all
Oh,
start?
I grew up with them, man.
Yeah.
We grew up in the same neighborhood. You know, one of them I met when I was 10 years old. He was Ron White. He was our paper boy. And like I said, my oldest sister raised me, so my oldest niece, Ron liked her. So he was a paper boy, but he used to come back, after he delivered his papers, come back to see her. And one day we just got to start talking about singing, you know.
Yeah.
And we said we're going to form a singing group in our neighborhood, you know. And so I was about 11, you know, and
So it was, you know, it
So
started
it was
young.
just guys in the neighborhood. We just formed a group. There were 1,000 groups in our neighborhood, man. There were so many groups. I mean, everybody was in a group or a gang or somewhere in both.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so we started very, very young.
Because you talk, you know, I talked to lots of different artists for this series, and a lot of them are sort of like, you know, I was in this band and I was in this band and this, but
No.
this is totally different. You know, it's like a fairy tale.
No, we started as kids in the neighborhood singing. And we would do battle with the other groups in the neighborhood. And in our neighborhood, if the four Ames, who turned out to be the four Tops, if they were going to show up, you knew the best you were shooting for was second place. You know, if we're doing these shows, we just sing for the girls anyway. But we did them at school, at the recreation center, on the corner, whatever it was. But if the four Ames were going to show up, the best you were going to get was second place, because they were awesome. And they turned out to be the four Tops, you know, when they came to Motown, and you know. But all those people were in my neighborhood. I grew up 3 doors down the street from Diana Ross. I've known her since I was 8 years old. Since she was 8 years old, I'm sorry. I've known Aretha Franklin since I was 8 years old. She lived right around the corner from me.
So there's just so much talent.
It was just, Detroit was hustling, bustling with people, with young people singing, man. And that's what it was, and that's what we did, and that's how we enjoyed ourselves and how we recreated.
And so that period of like amazing success through the 60s, you know, what was coming from that background, and you know you started so young, but then how did it feel when it all took off, and especially given the fact that not only was it, you know, you're the singer and you know the lead of the group, but also the writer and like involved with lots of other artists, you know, like writing My Girl for the Temptations and all this other stuff, you know, it's fantastic songs, but also, you know, not only having the pleasure of singing them, but also writing them. Was that like, you know, do you look back at that time now and think, God?
Well, yeah, I look back on it and think about it. I still write. I write all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in the studio working right now, but I write all the time, and it's just something that I do. It's just
That you've always done.
habitual, I guess, you know.
But during that era in the 60s, did you know, were you surprised when it took off, and did anything catch you?
Surprised when what took off?
You know, when your career with the Miracles took off, when these songs became such massive hits, when
No.
Did you just believe in what you guys were doing?
I was going to say I wasn't surprised. You know, I was very, very, very happy.
Yeah.
Because, but I wasn't surprised, because that's what we were shooting for. That's what we
Yeah.
were fighting for. That's what we wanted all our lives. That's what we had started singing when we were 11 years old for. You know what I mean?
So when you started, were you thinking, you know, I really want to? We want to be a great group. And
yeah, we were thinking
we want success.
We were thinking that we wanted success as a group, and we wanted to sing, but we didn't give it that much credence because of where we were growing up, man. See, I grew up in the hood in Detroit. I grew up in the ghetto, and I grew up where, you know, to come out of that and be a singer or a professional or anything is a feat.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But no, we weren't really surprised. We were very, very happy, but it's what we've been fighting for, man.
Working,
yeah,
fighting
we've been working towards. Yes, exactly. And we were very fortunate enough for that to happen.
And from that era, you know, 60s era, because there's lots of incredible stuff that happened after that. But what are some of the songs that still to this day you're most proud of? You know, like, let's say beyond Tracks of My Tears and I Second That Emotion and Tears of the Clown.
I don't have a favorite song, man. I do not have a favorite song because I grew up hearing music all my life. If I could tell you my favorite song, it would probably be a song that I had absolutely nothing to do with.
Yeah.
You know, because I love songs and I love music. Now, as a writer, my international anthem has become My Girl. My Girl, and many times people have asked me, they say, well, why didn't you keep My Girl for yourself and for the Miracles and sing it, you know? Because were it not for the Temptations, I probably would have never even written My Girl. You know, I was doing an album for the Temptations, because when they first came over, I had known Melvin, the bass singer, and Otis, the founder of the group, from high school. They went to a rival high school of ours, you know. So they were in the group battles. They were called, what were they called? They were called The Distance. A guy named Richard Street, who came back to sing with them after Paul Williams left, you know. Richard Street. They were called Richard Street and The Distance. Richard Street was the lead singer. And that's what they were called. So I knew them from the group battles, you know. But when they came over to Motown, we loved them, you know. And so Berry told me he wanted me to, you know, try to get some hits on them. So I wrote 2 or 3 songs for them, 3 or 4 records. Nothing happened, you know. Berry wrote 3 or 4, nothing happened, you know. And so finally, one day I was on my way home with the Miracles. We've been on tour, and I was listening to the radio and I was humming in the car. It's my turn to drive. I talk about that on the show, but it's my turn to drive because only 3 of us drove. So I'm driving the car and everybody's asleep, and I started thinking about the Temptations and how they sounded and how they sang. And the Temptations, if I brought, especially in a room this size, if I brought the original Temptations, if I brought David and Eddie and Melvin and Paul and Otis in this room and said, hey man, sing ooh. And they said, ooh, they would shake this room. Because that's how powerful their harmonies were. And Melvin's way, way, way down on the bottom. And Eddie's way, way, way up on the top. And everything in between. And I used to call them the 5 deacons because they were gospel-y sounding to me, you know. And so I thought, well, they should have a song that they sing like that. And so that's how I came up with the way you do the things you do, which is something, yeah, smile so bright, they all sing it, you know. And it was their first hit. And so at Motown, you never had a lock on a group or an artist. We had so many writers and so many producers there. If as a writer or a producer you went to an artist with a song that they liked, you could cut it on them. If they liked the song, you could do it on them. So everybody jumps on the Temptations bandwagon. They start using Eddie Kendricks to sing the lead. Because the way you do things you do is Eddie Kendricks. So I said, I know David Ruffin's in that group. So is Paul Williams. They're in that group. In fact, the very first record that they ever recorded in Motown was a song that I wrote for them called I Want a Love I Can See. And Paul was singing lead, you know. But I know that he and David Ruffin are in that group. And David Ruffin is powerful, you know. So far we haven't recorded anything with them with David Ruffin singing the lead, you know. So I'm going to write something sweet because David had that demanding voice. That thing right there. But if I could write something sweet, let David sing it, I think it's going to, the girls are going to love it. So that's how My Girl came up. And I never would have written My Girl had it not been for them. So I don't wish that I had recorded it and recorded on the Miracle. Later on I did, Miracle I did, but everybody recorded it. And like I said, it's become my international anthem as a songwriter because we play it wherever we go in the world. And we're in countries, man, where the primary language is not even English, okay?
People know it.
And as soon as people hear boom, 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 they know what's getting ready to happen. They jump, they start singing, even people who don't speak English, you know?
Yeah.
So music is the international language, man. It's a wonderful life, and it's a wonderful communicator, you know? So yeah, it's become my international anthem.
Well, one of many. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty cool as well because you already had a lot of success, and it's a seminal moment for the Temptations. You know, one of the other great groups from Motown in, you know, making it really like that with that record. So yeah, something to be obviously unbelievably proud of.
I am, and I'm very happy about that.
And I mean, aside from, you know, the melody and the vocals, it's like the lyrics. You know, I mean, I would say it's overlooked, but it's not overlooked because like Dylan, I know, has described you as America's greatest living poet. How did you feel about that? You know, are you a Dylan fan?
I'm a Dylan fan. I know Bob very well, man. You know, Bob and I joke about that. We laugh about what I'm saying when he's talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've known Bob forever, man. I've known Bob since like a Rolling Stone. When I first moved out to Los Angeles from Detroit, I decided I wanted to try some other areas of entertainment. So I was going to an acting class, and Bob was dating a girl named Sarah at that time, and she was in my acting class, and he came, and that's how we hooked up and we met, you know. So yeah, I know him. He's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Bob's a great songwriter himself, and so that's a real compliment.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a true thing because they're so like richly melodic. Those records, it's often very easy to let those lyrics pass you by. But you know, like even the use of the word substitute in Tracks of My Tears was the reason why Pete Townsend then wrote Substitute for the Who, apparently. You know, there are all these little things. They're all just from lyrics. You know? And so it's a great, you know, it's a great thing when it's, you know, not only melody, but it's also, you know, the content actually has a kind of like deeper meaning.
Well, thank you. And like I said, you know, when I first met Berry Gordy, I attribute that to him because that's what he told me about songs and what they should be and you know, how, you know, how they should tell a story and what have you. And I really took that to heart.
Yeah.
And that's my main thing when I sit down to write a song. I want to write a song. I want to write a song because, you know, perhaps when I write it, when I record it on myself or someone else, I might not give it the right musical treatment. People might reject it. They might not even like it. The public might not even like it. But if it's a song, it has a chance for 20 years down the line for somebody to pick it up and say, hey, and give it the right treatment, and people like it. You know, if it's a song, it has a chance to live.
Yeah.
So I always want to write a song. That's my first goal when I sit down to write. I want to write a song. If it's a hit, that's a bonus. That's icing.
But you're just always trying to write something good.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, you know, deeper content, so like when it comes to like the 70s work, you know, like A Quiet Storm, people often talk about in that, because that moment things started getting, you know, with Motown artists, like you've got, you know, the Marvin Gaye big record, What's Going On, but A Quiet Storm is, you know, quite similar, like in terms of the content of that record. And you know, was that something that you did very consciously when you were writing that, like quite, because it's a change?
Well, there's two things that I did consciously on that. Well, yeah, see, Marvin was my brother. I mean, we were together almost every day, you know.
Yeah.
He lived right around the corner from me, and I would go to his house. You know, we played golf together, and we ran, we did other stuff, you know, we just hung out. So I would go to his house, and I'd be waiting for him. We have a golf date or something, you know. And we're going to start late on 12 noon or something. And he'd be sitting at the piano, and he was writing what's going on. And he said to me, Smoke, God is writing this album. I said, what? He said, yeah, man. He said, I'm just sitting here, man. He said, God is writing this album. Now, you asked me about my favorite song. I couldn't tell you that. My favorite album of all the albums that I've ever heard in my life, and I've been buying music and hearing music all of my life, every kind of music that you can basically think of. What's Going On is my favorite album of any of those in my life.
It is a magical sound.
What's Going On is beyond an album. It's prophecy. You know what I mean? You listen to what's going on right now, and it's way more poignant than it was when it came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everything
100%.
he said in there is happening as we speak right now.
Yeah.
You know? So it's prophecy. So it is my favorite album, and the concept of it flowing like that, you know. So I had retired, man. I had retired from show business. When I moved out to Los Angeles, I retired from the Miracles. And I moved out. I was vice president of the company. So Berry wanted me to move from Detroit. I moved kicking and screaming, man. I'm telling you, I didn't want to move to Los Angeles. But anyway, he wanted me to move out there and all. So I had retired from the group, so I moved out to Los Angeles. And I started to go to the office every day. And when I was in Detroit, as a vice president, my office was to induct new talent, to sign their contracts, have them come in, coordinate them with producers and writers if I wasn't going to do that myself. It was a fun job, man. I loved doing it, you know. So we get out to Los Angeles, and Barry said, hey, man, he said, you know, I trust you more than anybody. I'm going to change your office. You're going to do the financial stuff. You're going to sign all the payroll checks. The checks are going to come into your office with everything, with the exception of the record sales. The checks are going to come into your office. You're going to take out the checks. Blah, blah, blah. So, man, I was excited about that. Oh, this is great. You know, it's a new day. I'm being an executive. You know, it's a new thing. Because being an executive in Detroit was fun because I did what I loved, new talent stuff. So the first year or so, man, that was great. I'm signing checks. And my name is William. My name is William Robinson, Jr. That's how I'm signing the checks. William Robinson, Jr. William Robinson, Jr. So, man, you got to see my signature now. My signature is like that because after 1,000 checks, man, you know, I said, I got to change this because this is killing me, man.
Yeah.
I got to get a new signature. So I went home at night and I practiced my signature, what it is now, until I got it. And then I went to the bank and I changed everything. And my signature is because, I mean, I had to because of signing those checks. Anyway, after about 2.5 years of that, I was miserable, man. I was absolutely miserable. But I thought I was doing a great job of hiding it. I thought nobody knew that I was miserable. Nobody could tell that because I was, and I was miserable. And I started going to little clubs after I got off work. in Los Angeles just to see anybody on stage. I don't care who it was. I just wanted to see somebody on stage. And I was miserable. And after about three years or so, three years, a few months, you know, can I curse on this?
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
okay, because I'm going to. Okay, anyway. So Berry comes to my office, and he said, hey man, he said, I need you to do something for me. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is something corporate. He wants me to go to Chicago or New York. I did stuff like that too. I traveled, made publishing deals, blah, blah, something, and he wants me to do something like that. So I said, yeah, man, of course, I'll do it, you know. He said, sit down. So I sat down. He said, man, I really need you to do something for me. I said, what do you need me to do, man? He said, I need you to get yourself a band, man. I need you to go into the studio and make a record. I need you to get the fuck out of here.
It's completely out of the blue.
What did you say, man? He said, I need you to get yourself a band. I need you to go in the studio and make a record. I need you to get the fuck out of here. So I said, what are you talking about, man? He said, man, you are miserable. And you're my best friend. And when I see you miserable, it makes me miserable. And I don't want to be miserable. So I need you to get the fuck out of my face and just go somewhere. So, man, that was one of the most glorious moments of my life. Because above all, I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want him to think that I couldn't do the vice president thing. I didn't want him to sign the checks, and I didn't want him to think I couldn't do that. And I didn't want to let him down. And when I knew that it was cool with him for me to, you know, go back, man, I was so happy. I can't even tell you. I went home, I was so happy. So I started to make a plan. And I said, well, okay, now I have always been what I consider a quiet singer, you know. I said, well, shit, man, I got to go back. I'm going to try to take show business by storm. And I about to say, what did you just say? I'm trying to take show business by storm. Hey, man, what about a quiet storm? What about a quiet storm? So that's when I started to write that.
Yeah.
And my youngest sister, who, like I said, was 14 when I was born, she was a great lyricist, man. I used to know a few songs. So I started it, and I took it to her because I was going to get into the whole record concept, you know, and I needed time to. So I said, finish this up for me. So she did. She finished up The Quiet Storm for me. And, yeah, I did it, and I wanted to do a concept record, so I did it with the wind flowing in between the cuts, the wind joining the songs together and all that, you know.
I mean, it's like what's going on, concept.
Yeah, it became something, man, that I never dared, because I just wanted it to be a debut, but it became a radio format. You know, I had no idea that would ever happen with that, you know. But we have Quiet Storm stations here in the States now.
Yeah.
You know? And so a young man he's passed on now, but he's a young disc jockey in Washington, D.C. named Melvin Lindsay started it. Because when the record came out, he used to use it as his theme song. And he called his show The Quiet Storm. And he had a night show, and people started flocking to his show and listening to it. And he would open it up every night with Quiet Storm, close it out with Quiet Storm. And it just took off, and other stations started to do it, and I was amazed by that, man.
And it opened, you know, what became, you know, like an unbelievable solo career. I mean, so many great songs, and then, you know, in the 80s, like even the other day, like people talk about being with you and cruising, but even there's a tune like You Know What It's Like from one of those records, and it's almost like 80s, you know, rock, but it has a bit of R&B, and it was just fantastic.
Well,
so you know, I could sit all day and talk about those records, but you know, I know you've got a show to prepare, so you know, it's been a huge honour, Smokey. And,
it's my pleasure, and thank you very much for including me in this, man. I really appreciate that.
It's really, really well deserved, and thanks for all the tunes, because I'll be listening to them, you know, all year, every year.
Thank you very much.